Spartans! What is your profession?
Yes, people, we are back again. Quick turnaround from the Fat Frank show. Back with UFC 257 review show. Back with Tooth and the Truth again. We all good, guys?
Yeah, man. Good to go.
Good to go, man. Let's do it. Let's get it.
Oh, what a UFC 257 it was. Conor, Poirier, second round TKO. Boy. Let's just get straight into it. Go over to my UFC connoisseur, the Nate Diaz of dentistry, Mr. Two himself. Bro, what happened? What the hell happened, bro?
First of all, it was an amazing card, man. The whole card from prelims up to the main event, amazing card. As I've said before, UFC don't fuck around. They put on the best shows.
Yeah.
Boxing is dead for that reason. Best fight, the best. Yeah, a shock, a surprise. But at the same time, when we get into it, which I'm sure we will, it wasn't as much of a shock. I know the Truth made his prediction. He called it. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to call a spade a spade. It is what it is. I went for Conor. I gave my reasons. I gave my justifications as to why I thought it would be Conor.
Oh.
But you know what? It's a fight at the end of the day. As Mike Tyson said, fuck it. It's a fight. It can go either way. And when you have a guy as talented and as good as Poirier, do you know what I mean? Something like that is always possible. Do you know what I mean? And we don't need to go through Poirier's resume, but you know, he's got some scalps on that list. He's got Gaethje, he's got Alvarez, he's got Holloway, he's got Dan Hooker in his last fight. Yeah. So man, no surprises, but a surprise, if that makes sense. It's kind of an oxymoron. Yeah, man. Truth, what do you think? Because I know you got a lot to say on it, man. I'm just here to I said all my shit in the last in the preview show, but in the post-fight show, I wanted to hear what your thoughts were.
I'm going to tell you why I went for Poirier, and I wasn't convinced on McGregor. I've one mantra that I live by, and I've seen it so many times, is that rematches never go the same way. Like they hardly ever go the same way. Probably only Mayweather's the only one that does rematches, and he wins the rematch more convincingly. Poirier is a hard worker, man. This guy is dedicated to the game like no reason. And the one thing that just put me over the top is that McGregor isn't as dedicated. He isn't as dedicated. Like, I saw his training stuff and I looked at him. He looked good. His body looked good and everything. But I'm like, in UFC, you know, your body don't mean your body don't mean shit. Your body don't mean anything. It's about the fight game. And I didn't know that if he was working on anything else apart from his punches. You know, freaking UFC has probably moved on than it was 3 years ago. And for me, the fight proved it. Poirier went, and he said it himself at the end of the fight. Remember, he's like, I wanted to turn this into an MMA fight. He said he went for the takedown. He was doing leg kicks, and it just all added up. It all added up. And don't get me wrong, Conor stand-up looked as good as it ever was. He was catching him. As you said, he pinged him a few times. But
Poirier did say that he could have knocked him out.
Yeah,
at one point. He said Conor caught him and he was like, he could have knocked me out.
Yeah, I remember that. It was in the first round, like, as he was wobbling, and I thought, I just thought to myself, why is Conor not going in for the kill? That might have been ring rust, because once you get that ring rust, you're like, oh, you don't know when to go for the kill. But that being said, for me, it was the same old Conor, and he was facing someone that has evolved his fight game from what we've seen before. As I said, the takedown came in there. There was more strategy. His team was talking about it. The takedown was for a reason. The leg kicks was for a reason. And then the finish was a beautiful finish.
It's true. It's true. Because I know Tooth and I, we both went for Conor. 100% say that. But I did say, when we broke down the strategy, Tooth, I did say about the leg kicks, and I did say about trying to take it to the ground. Now, I thought if Poirier was to win this fight, he would have dragged it out to rounds 4 and 5 into D-Walk.
So
we know what Conor's like for his engine. Two, from Conor's perspective, we heard Truth saying from Poirier. From Conor's perspective, bro, like, what was the strategy? Because he wasn't checking the calf kicks. Obviously, we know once you get Conor to the ground, it's normally over. But to get knocked out, first time he's been knocked out, well, TKO, but first thing by TKO, he's been done. What was going on? Why wasn't he checking the leg kicks? Why was he trying to scrap? We know it's all about stand-up, but bro, he must have realized that his legs were finished and he had to change strategy. Yeah,
definitely. I don't want to sound pretentious, but I think it was a knockout. I don't think it was a technical knockout. I think it was I think he just sparked him out, bro.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Conor was laying there like flat. He was sleeping, bro. You know what I mean? He was sleeping, bro. I don't mean that to take the dude was actually sleeping, bro. You know what I mean? Like in the recovery position. But that's a good question because it kind of ties into the Truth's statement, and the rebuttal fits into your question, if you get what I mean. So, ring rust is a thing, bruv. Do you know what I mean? Ring rust really is a thing, and especially in MMA where you have to be aware of all facets of the game. Do you know what I mean? You're not just worried about someone punching you. You're worried about someone kicking you, taking you down, submitting you. There's a lot of things to be sharp. You need to be sharp on all elements of the sport. You know, we could talk about Mayweather never showing really any ring rust, but in that sport, bruv, come on. Do you know what I mean? All you're doing is taking punches. And I don't mean to discredit boxing. You guys know I love boxing.
It's only one element.
Yeah, it's just one thing you're worrying about. Do you get what I mean? Jordan came back after 2 years and fucking won a three-peat. Do you get what I mean? It's like you're only bouncing a ball and throwing it in a hoop. In this game, there's so much more that you need to be sharp about. So yeah, absolutely, ring rust is a thing. But
as I said, I thought he just wasn't sharp with his finish. I thought all other aspects of this game he was Conor with, apart from just the finish. But what do you think?
I'll get into that. I'll get into that because I made a note of that here. The leg kicks and everything that you mentioned. I'll get into a more technical discussion about that. But just based off the performance that we saw, him performing the way he did was actually, for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people, it was raw. He done well. Do you know what I mean? The first round was his, and I scored it for him. The judges' scorecards post-fight scored it for him. He was controlling the range. He was picking his shots. He was tagging Justin quite a bit. And TJ, you said it, pardon me, bruv. You said it. DP even came out and said, look, you could have finished me. And on the inside, he was tagging him when he had his back. When Conor was pushing Dustin towards the fence, towards the cage, and Dustin was fighting off his with his back towards the cage. He was tagging him. Do you know what I mean? The shoulder strikes that we saw against Cerrone, he used them effectively here as well. So you could tell he had really focused on the stand-up part of the game plan, and that, in some sense, goes back to their first fight, which was in 2014. But also historically, Justin likes to get into wars. He said it before this fight. He said, I want to see people bleed. There's got to be blood and guts. But regardless of him saying that, if you look at Justin's last few performances, if not all of his performances, bruv, bar the Habib fight where he just got taken down, the fight against Alvarez, the fight against Holloway, the fight against Dan Hooker, they were all slugfests. Dustin likes to stand and engage. Dustin likes to trade punches. you're right. Rematches never go the same, but I think that's a obvious, and it's a blanket statement, not to discredit what you're saying, because I understand what you mean in the sense that one person can win the first fight doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to win the second fight. Yeah. But in the sense that, yeah, rematches never go the same. They hardly ever go the same.
Let me just clarify in terms of rematch. The reason I said this rematch in particular is because Conor knocked him out so quick. Conor didn't really get a gauge about what Dustin was about from the first fight.
But bro, that first fight was in what, 2014? That was 7 years. That fight was also at featherweight. They were at different weight classes. That fight as well, their career trajectory has taken two different paths. You know what I mean? Two completely different paths. Dustin had to reinvent himself, go back to the drawing board. At that point, Justin was he was only training at a gym in Louisiana at the time, and he was half dedicated to American Top Team, which is one of the bigger, MMA gyms, one of the world's top 5 MMA gyms. And now he's fully dedicated to American Top Team. Because he understands, like, to be the best, you need to be training with the best. You need to have training partners. You need to be dedicated fully to this game. And Conor, on the other hand, went and achieved everything that no one at that point had achieved yet. He became champ. He went on, he crossed over to boxing. He became a superstar. He set up a whiskey company. He's hanging around with, like, royalty in Europe, fucking swimming with the Prince and Princess of Monaco. Like, their career trajectory took two different paths. So that fight, the first fight, it almost reminds me of the third fight between Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran, where the first time they fought, Duran won, but he won marginally. The second time they fought, I think it was like 6 months or a year apart, which was still fresh. And Sugar Ray whooped his ass with that to the point where Duran quit and he said, no maths. You know what I mean? But then the third fight was like 8 years down the line. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it was hard to use the first two fights as a measuring stick to sort of determine what the third fight would be. And I kind of see that here as well. The first fight was so far apart under different circumstances that it was almost difficult to use as a measuring stick, even though I used it in some way in my argument as to why Conor would win. That was strictly because of, and I said this in a preview show, is that Dustin hasn't really changed too much. He's still the same Dustin, but what he...
You don't think?
Nah, I think what he done back then, he just does better now.
Okay.
He just does it better. He just does it way better now. So his boxing is much better now, but he could still box back then.
But his team is much better now, though, because in terms of strategy,
they molded him into someone that they didn't need to completely, like, for example, Jorge. Jorge, before he took like that year off when he went into the mountains and like, he came back and he reinvented himself. Like, he was knocking people out cold. He knocked out Darren Till. He knocked out Ben Askren. He knocked out who was the other dude? Nate Diaz. Well, he didn't knock him out, but he finished him. He finished him. Yeah. He finished him based off a cut.
Yeah.
But the Jorge Masvidal before that, bro, he was barely winning decisions, and most of his losses were split decisions. Like, every fight was going to decision. That's what I mean. We haven't seen that with Dustin. Dustin is still the same Dustin, but what he does now is just much better at what he does. He's much more fluent with his boxing. He's much more fluent with his grappling and his transitions from boxing into grappling. So that's why I picked McGregor, because I still thought Dustin still likes to engage in a stand-up. And we saw, like, even, bro, he was getting tagged by Eddie Alvarez. He was getting tagged by Justin Gaethje. Even his last fight with Dan Hooker, he won unanimously, but he was still getting tagged. And for me, when I look at a fight, I look at it as a chess match. If you've got an open in there, your opponent, if he has the perfect counter for that, he's going to expose that. And I thought Conor, being his IQ in this game is very high. being that he possesses the touch of death in his left hand, he would use that opening to finish someone like Justin.
Oh, I got an echo.
No, I am digressing there, but
no, I was going to ask a question quickly.
Yeah.
Do you still think he's got that touch of death though? Because I go back a few of his fights. You know, he couldn't finish Nate Diaz. I know he bloodied his face, but he couldn't finish Nate Diaz. Mayweather, he had loads of confidence in doing damage to him. He didn't really do any damage to Mayweather. Khabib, we know, didn't do any damage to him. Khabib just walked him down. Cerrone, I'm not going to count. It was a kick that finished him. It was a kick that finished Cerrone, so I'm not going to count that. So do you think he's got enough confidence still in his left hand? And do you think that's why he's going to go for the finish?
Absolutely. And I'll reference those 3 fights that you brought up just off the cuff here. The Cerrone fight, it was a shoulder strike that led to the head kick, because the head kick didn't even catch him flush. It caught him on like the shoulder, cheek, like it wasn't a flush head kick. Yeah. It was the shoulder strike that led to the finish. Yeah. The Diaz fight, both of those fights were at welterweight, and Conor was moving up from featherweight at that time. So he completely skipped lightweight and he went straight up to welterweight, which is what, 175, and featherweight is 145. Yeah. So he went from 145 to 175. Do you know what I mean? 145. He missed 155 and he went up to 175. So yeah, his power might have not transferred that quickly in that short space of time. And then again, the opponent he's fighting, I think Diaz had only been finished once up until that point in his career, which was by a head kick. But Diaz is known for being a zombie. He can take punishment. You know, he can take punishment. Everyone knows that about the Diaz brothers. You can't knock them out. You can't even kill them. You know, they're bruv, trust me, bruv, they're dangerous. They don't hit you. And the thing is with the Diaz brothers, they don't hit you with 100% power. Joe Rogan always said this. They hit you with 50% power and wear you down and you down and pound you out. And that's exactly what happened in the first Diaz fight with Conor. You know what I mean? He wore him out. Second round, took him down, choked the dog shit out of him.
It's Nick Diaz Army, motherfucker.
Yeah, bruv. So I was on the Diaz 2 fight, and I said this in the preview as well. In the Diaz 2 fight, Conor smoked him the first 2 rounds. The third and fourth round, easily Diaz's rounds. And then in the 5th round, it was whoever's fight. And that's what made it one of the greatest fights of all time in UFC history. So Diaz is a monster when it comes to that. The Khabib fight, we all know Conor was drunk off his ass, not motivated, not dedicated. He wasn't taking that fight seriously. His coach, John Kavanagh, even said he was turning up to training on his own time. He was just Rocky 3 settings. Do you know what I mean? You remember when Sylvester Stallone in Rocky 3 was like partying and chilling, and he wasn't taking Clubber Lang seriously. Do you know what I mean? And then they interviewed Clubber Lang, bruv. They interviewed Clubber Lang, and they were like, "Yo, what's your prediction for the fight?" My prediction? Hey. Trust me, bruv. And that's exactly what happened, bruv. That was some Rocky 3 shit, bruv. He wasn't taking that shit seriously. And he ended up paying for it. The Mayweather fight, bruv, it's not his skill set, man. You're talking about someone who Mayweather was born into boxing, born into a boxing family. His dad and his 2 uncles, all boxers. Do you know what I mean? He's been training boxing since he could walk. One of the youngest Olympic medalists. He's been doing it his whole career. Easy work for him. And that was all for the money as well, bruv. That was all for the money and promotion. So I don't count those 3 fights as again, I don't use those 3 fights to gauge if Conor still has his power, or if he doesn't have his power. As we all know in boxing and in MMA, if you possess that touch of death, that's the last thing to go. You know, you can lose all your other abilities, but the power remains with you for a very long time. It's the last thing to go. But
it don't remain with you when you're moving up. When you're moving up and you're facing top level component. As I said,
but
the power was still there, but it's not. I just don't see that one punch knockout power no more.
But lightweight. But this is what I mean. Ring rust. Yeah. Lightweight is his natural weight. You know, he was draining himself to get to.
To get to 140.
And if you guys remember, he was looking like a skeleton for the.
I remember. It was scary. Yeah,
it was scary, bruv. He was looking all sucked in, dried up for the Chad Mendes fights, for the first Poirier fight, for the Aldo fight. He looked like a skeleton, and then when he moved up to welterweight, he looked bloated. But when he moved to lightweight, he looked normal. Out. Exactly, he looked filled out. He looked bulked up. So I don't think it's a weight issue, and I don't think it's a power issue. I think he lost to the better fighter on the night, and I think Dustin's game plan paid off in the end, but it was a risky game plan, which I'll get into with regards to the technical side of things. And I think Conor done well. He won the first round for me. He controlled the range, the boxing. He was peppering him. He was catching him on the inside at range. Dustin took him down, and we saw Conor basically crawl all the way up to the cage immediately and walk up. So Dustin couldn't keep him down, which is an element that you could tell he had focused on, because he knew after the Khabib fight, he can't be ragdolled like that anymore. Like, it's a clear weakness. It's a clear weakness. And he was held down in that fight, and it looked embarrassing because it only looked like he's only good at stand-up. But if you get him down to the ground, he's a fish out of water. So to see that he added that to his game. And remember, Dustin, is a black belt at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's no joke. Again, coming out of the top team, American top team academy. And I think his black belt was given to him by, I think it's a Gracie black belt as well. So it's accredited. Do you know what I mean? It's accredited with honors. Yeah. So, but the point I wanted to make was, with Conor being dedicated or not, I think he was. I think he took this fight seriously.
I know he took his fight seriously.
Do you think that Poirier and Conor not having to do the media circuit, so Conor couldn't get into his head, the fact that Conor had no one to perform to when we got there, I think they had 100 people in there, but not having the massive crowd and the big lights, do you think that affected Conor negatively, but boosted Poirier knowing that he didn't have to deal with that as well?
Yeah, I don't think it affected Conor negatively, but I do agree it did boost Poirier's confidence. Again, I alluded to this in the pre-fight show, is that the Conor that we know and love and we've become accustomed to, with the trash talk and the mind games, that was a Conor pre-Nate Diaz 1. Remember I said this, like he was acting all trash. Mental warfare was a big part of his game. But after he lost to Diaz the first fight, we saw a change. We saw him still do a bit of trash talking, but he was more focused. You know, when it came to the second Diaz fight, he did no press. He went to the mountains. He got fully dedicated. He didn't need to sell a fight no more. He knew he was a big name. He knew he was a big star. And they even had to move the event for him. You know, he was meant to be on UFC 200, but then because he wouldn't do any press, they moved it to UFC 202. So he started changing elements of his game. Even with the Alvarez fight, a lot of trash talk, a lot of getting in Alvarez's head. But at the same time, you saw that focus in him. You saw him planning out his own destiny, saying, look, I was champ in Cage Rage. I'm going to be champ in UFC as well. It's just my destiny. It's written. And he spoke it into existence. He performed it into existence. So when he came back this time and he fought Cerrone, there was like, look, he doesn't need to perform anymore. He doesn't need to do this charade or this circus anymore. He's fully focused on, you know, building a legacy, because he understands now his name has been tarnished after the Khabib fight. People just look at him as like, you know, maybe it was a fluke, or maybe at the time where he'd done all that stuff, the game had not been fully evolved and he was just ahead of a curve and he could take advantage of all these guys. Yeah. So when he came back for the Cerrone fight, he was saying like, look, this is going to be a season for me. You know, I'm going to fight Cerrone, then I'm going to fight XYZ, and I'm going to get the title shot. I'm going to get the Khabib fight, whatever. Like, he was very focused. his mind was in the right place, and he was saying the right things. He was doing the right things. In the media, he wasn't doing all the trash talk. In fact, it was the opposite. He was complimenting Cerrone. He was, giving credit where credit was due.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a weird press one.
And it's the same here. He didn't at all go down the route of insulting Dustin like he did in the first fight.
Yeah.
He didn't go. And I think personally, he didn't need to. He'd already knocked him out in the first round, and he had already embarrassed him enough to leave a lot of doubt psychologically in Dustin's head. Whether it worked or not is one thing, but that's what I believe Conor believed. I think, I've already embarrassed this guy, and I've already knocked him out in the first round. That's going to leave a bitter memory and a bitter taste in Dustin's mouth. I don't need to worry about saying or doing anything. He's got more. With Dustin, he's always been cordial with every opponent he's fought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the fact that Conor was cordial with him must have helped him.
Relaxed him.
Yeah, it must have helped him, because it's like, look, this is what I'm used to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I fought Khabib. I was cordial with him. We were all fucking giving each other hand jobs. Do you know what I mean? Everyone was cool. I fought Max Holloway. We were all like, and that was a rematch as well. There was no trash talking. Everyone was like singing Kumbaya, my lord. And do you know what I mean? So for Dustin, I think it definitely helped not worrying about that element of the game.
Yeah. Now, I fully agree with regards to Dustin, but this is why, as much as it rubs some people the wrong way, I would have loved to see the trash talking Conor for this fight, because I think the talking would have got, because Poirier said he was nervous. So imagine if you had a trash talking Conor there, in his face, aggressive. For me, especially at the weigh-in, I'm like, this guy's being too and then this is what signified my belief more that Poirier is going to win. I'm like, Conor's being too damn friendly against someone that wants to really take his head off. Like, you guys were exchanging hot sauce, saying you're going to get it, they're hugging. I'm like, what?
Do you think that Conor has looked at Floyd and the way Floyd did it in terms of his behavior? Because we know Floyd was with all the trash talking, especially in his younger years. Then as he got older, the trash talking, it was still there, still elements of it, but he changed because it changed from you being a fighter to a brand. Do you think Conor's now thinking about his brand and saying to himself, I'm in with all these corporate fuckers now, so I can't afford to be as reckless as I once was when I was younger?
Before you go to, I want you to reply to this. That's why I personally believe that unlike Mayweather, Conor's taken some beatings. So it's hard to keep giving it if you've taken, especially the Khabib beating. It's hard to have that invincibility and talk like that once you've been literally manhandled. Because people can't believe what you're saying, that you're the baddest gunman in the planet, when there's already someone better than you. And I'm not talking about one person better than you. People think that Justin Gaethje is better than him. So it's hard to come out and, convince the public and convince people that you're still the baddest man. That's why I would have liked to see him try it or talk that way against Poirier, because it would have signified to me that, he's still trying to be that kind of guy. So for him not to do it, and he's even lost even more now. Like, how could he go into his next fight and try trash talk the way he's been beaten against Poirier?
Well,
that's true.
This is the thing. I agree with some points. I disagree with some points. Going back to PJ's first point about being a brand, I absolutely agree. I think, look, man, this guy is making way more money than he ever did in UFC. All right, he doesn't really need to worry about anything. And as Marvelous Marvin Hagler said, it's hard to get up in the morning and do road work and run miles when you're waking up in silk pajamas. And that's the lifestyle that Conor's living right now. He's waking up in silk pajamas. Doesn't really need to worry about anything. His life is set. His family's life is set. His children's life is set. His grandchildren's life. Everyone's set. He doesn't really need to be doing this. Question is, why is he doing it? goes back to the whole legacy thing that I was saying. You know, he wants to leave a legacy behind. He wants to avenge, even though he's not going to avenge the Khabib loss, because I doubt they'll fight again. But he's trying to, do you know what I mean? He's trying to at least redeem himself or somewhat rebuild the aura that he had before. Do you get what I mean? And which leads me on to your point, Truth, about Mayweather. And yeah, as you do get older, you become wiser, you become mature. You just don't have the energy to do the shit that you were doing when you were younger. You know what I mean? Bruv, I used to hit the clubs. I used to chat shit. Do you know what I mean? Now I can't do that stuff anymore. It just doesn't tickle my feet anymore. With the build up to the fight, you know me, man. I'm all about trash talk. I hate all this hugging and shaking hands and exchanging gift baskets. Like, fuck that. Like, I want to see a fight. You're going to go in there, you're going to punch someone in the face. At least chat shit about them. Make me invested. Get me really invested. And I must say, this is one of the Conor fights where it didn't, like I said, it didn't interest me like his previous fights. Simply,
it was weird.
It was. That's what I felt. Honestly, I felt the weigh-in made me feel so much more confident in Poirier, because Conor made it so. Conor is a guy that normally makes people feel uncomfortable. We've seen it. Aldo was shook to his core. It brought him out of his game plan. Alvarez brought him out of his game plan, and it does work against these people. And Poirier is not the strongest mentally himself. He said it. He was nervous. He was nervous. So I would have loved to have seen that. But as I said, you know what? Do you think Dustin being such a likable guy made it harder as well, because everyone is more aware of Dustin and his and what he does, you know, his charities and stuff. He's always talking about it. So do you think it would have been harder for Conor to really trash talk Dustin, because he's literally such a likable guy to everybody?
But I mean, bro, quite frankly, I didn't invest too much energy thinking down that path, to be honest, because like I said, like if everyone out there is hugging and kissing, shaking hands, exchanging flowers and kissing babies on the forehead, I'm like, fuck that shit. Like, I didn't tune into this. You know what I mean? So I just immediately turn off. I just turn off. Like, I only tune in for the fight. If I see everyone's being cordial and fucking singing and singing around the campfire, and you know what I mean, that shit, like, that's a big no-no for me. Like, you're going to war. I want to see mental warfare. I want to see trash talking. I want to see all of that good shit.
Yeah.
If that's not happening, I'm just going to tune in for the fight. That's one of the reasons why I barely give a fuck about what. I'll watch an Anthony Joshua fight, but I couldn't give a fuck about interviews and all that stuff, because it's just too nice for me. It's way too nice for me.
It's the fight game.
It's the fight game, bruv. And I want to see. I want to see emotions flared up. I want to see something that gets me interested before the fight. I want to see the fight before the fight. So, I didn't pay too much attention to that. But what I do want to talk about now, because we've kind of spoken about all the things with regards to the fight, but not the actual fight, if that makes sense. Okay. Now, we haven't spoken about what happened in the octagon, which is, for me, the most telling and the most revealing part. Because we did touch upon it with, has Conor lost his power, how the leg kicks, and all that stuff, his cardio. Again, I had him winning round 1. I thought Dustin, I keep calling him Justin. I keep thinking of Gaethje, bruv. I don't know why. But he tagged him a few times. He was close to finishing him, as Dustin said. He managed to get, as soon as he got taken down, he managed to scoot all the way up to the fence and walk his way up. He reversed the position, started throwing shoulder strikes, which affected Dustin. Dustin was getting tagged. And the leg kicks, essentially, are what led to the finish, because those leg kicks were devastating. Now, Conor hasn't dealt with leg kicks in his career. He hasn't. You know, no one's really gone at his legs. And those leg kicks devastated him to the point where he had a dead leg.
Did you see him afterwards? He was on crutches, fam.
Yeah, he had a big leg. Do you know what I mean? No one's really gone at his legs like that.
Yeah.
And by Dustin doing that was a great technique. I wasn't still, after round 1, I still thought Conor was going to win this.
Did you not see after round 1, though, when Conor was breathing very heavily? And again, I don't know if it was ring rust. I know takedown takes a lot of Conor. Takedowns take a hell of a lot out of him. Even though he got out, but he was breathing heavily. So
he was taxed. Yeah, he was definitely taxed. And I think that was ring rust. I think that was being in there with the lights, under the bright lights again.
Yeah.
All of those things into consideration.
Yeah.
But I still thought second round come, if there's an opportunity, he's going to take it. If there was a window, he was going to take it. One thing that I did find surprising was that Dustin, the finish was beautiful. Like, I've got to give credit where credit was due. The finish was beautiful because it initially started, that sequence started with Conor backing Dustin up to the cage and teeing off on him.
Yeah.
And Dustin circled out and reversed it. So now Conor's back was on the cage. And I said this on the WhatsApp group. The first thing they teach you in boxing and you know, even in MMA is like, if you've got your back to the fence, don't throw punches. Do you know what I mean? You never throw punches with your back on the ropes. You never throw punches. Because you're a sitting duck. You know, you're a sitting duck. You can't move. You're going to be standing right there. And it's just easy pickings from there on. And what Conor should have done was circle out, which is what surprised me because, you know, he spent all this time focusing on boxing and this, that, and the third. The Mayweather fight and his whole MMA career, a lot of it has been primarily boxing, you know, the touch of death. He got comfortable in that position. Whether that be it was ring rust, whether that be, you know, he lacked the fight IQ at that moment in the fight, whether that be he was relying too much on his, you know, his left hand doing the job, whether that be he just didn't respect Justin's power, you know.
He couldn't though. Remember, he couldn't circle at that time because he said his leg was gone.
His foot was fucked.
He said he put pressure on it, and the pain shot all the way through to his hip. So he literally was immobile. He was on one leg.
It's true, but he tried swinging. Like he tried swinging, which at that point, if your leg is gone, you know what I mean? If your leg
I know.
The first thing you need to do is get double underhooks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Get double underhooks and then put him on the cage.
Yeah.
The same way he circled out, like the last place you want to be is with your back on the cage. And it was a beautiful finish, man. It was a one-punch knockout, short. I think it was a right hook, if I'm not mistaken. Short right hook. Yeah, it is. I could see on the picture behind.
He caught the left shook him and the right put him down.
Yeah,
the right put him down, and it was a short right hook, which means like, you know, he didn't need to swing. It was like his elbow and his forearm were almost like a perfect right angle. You know what I mean? That's enough to put anyone to sleep, and caught him right on the forehead as well. Beautiful finish, beautiful finish. But one thing I did want to say about the leg kicks, and I think Dustin learned from this, and I think Max Holloway learned from this, is that when you're such a good boxer in MMA, the best way to counter that is leg kicks. That's why if a boxer goes into kickboxing, he's fucked. You know, because a kickboxer, well, no, I'm just going to take
hack away at the legs,
hack away at the legs. The reason being is because you use your lead leg to generate a lot of your power, to get into a position, to twist your hips, to generate that torque, so that when you throw the punch, at the end of your punch, you're going to have full explosion. And Dustin against the Dan Hooker fight, and Dan Hooker is from the same camp as Israel Adesanya, City Kickboxing in New Zealand. They are vicious with their leg kicks. You know, we saw what he done to Paulo. We saw what Izzy done to Paulo Costa. The whole fight, leg kicks. We saw what Izzy done to Yoel, leg kicks. You know, it's a big part of his game. And it's not only a big part of his game, that is one of the marquee or trademark moves out of that gym. It's the low leg kick.
I've seen it a lot more now in general in the UFC. I'm seeing a lot more leg kicks being thrown.
Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker, it's a big part of the game now. Because if you're up against a good boxer, that's the first thing you want to do is just hack away at their legs. Because they use that leg to generate all their power. But also, in order to do that, they need to bring their leg further forward, all right, which brings it into kicking range. And that's exactly why Volkanovski won the first Max Holloway fight, because he kept chopping away at that legs, and Max couldn't get into a position comfortable enough to throw those combinations and to throw those punches. Yeah. In the second fight, we saw Holloway adjust. We saw he didn't put so much pressure on his lead foot. Yeah. And in this fight, the roles were reversed, where it happened to Dustin in his last fight with Dan Hooker, and it also happened in his fight against Justin Gaethje. Gaethje being renowned for leg kicks. So he took a page out of their books, and he's like, you know what, Conor's been out of the game for so long. He's going to use that lead leg, especially knowing that he's just looking for that left. He's just looking for that left hook, that left straight, because that's his touch of death. He's going to be leaning a lot on that front leg. Yeah. Regardless of that, Conor's stance is a traditional karate stance. Yeah. It's that sort of a knife edge stance. You know what I mean? Where he's facing you sideways, where his legs are like more than shoulder width apart. Yeah. Easy pickings for Dustin at that point. So every time he sees Conor try to throw a punch or make a little flinch, just hack away at that leg. It completely throws him off balance. It just shuts down whatever move Conor was trying to initiate in the first place. Yeah. And it worked a dream. And that's a lesson for all those people out there getting into boxing, kickboxing, or whatever. Just be mindful of that. Like, these are little things that make a huge difference. Make a huge difference.
Don't you think, though, this is some of the limitations of Conor? And for me, what I find good about Conor, I'm not just going to totally trash him, but what I do find good about him is that he will learn from it, and he will learn how to defend against it. We saw him improve his ground game in terms of defense. And I think he's going to learn from this and improve his checking of the leg kick. He's going to be a lot more with. You could tell if he had more of a wrestling background, that leg kick wouldn't come into play because it'd be too dangerous. I think the number was 18 or 19 leg kicks Poirier did to that leg in 2 rounds. And
give credit where credit is due as well. When Conor was at featherweight, a lot of people, I mean, I did say earlier, and it's going to sound like I'm doubling down on myself. He didn't face an opponent that will hack at his legs. Yeah. But the few times people did try to kick his legs, he was swift with it, simply because that knife edge stance he was in allowed him to easily move backwards and forwards, just slide in and glide out. So even in the first Dustin fight, if you go back and watch the fight, you will see Dustin try to kick his legs a few times, and Conor just shakes his head like, nope, you didn't catch me. Do you know what I mean? So again, tie that in with the ring rust, tie that in with how much training he's had, tie that in with the COVID, and if he's had training partners to spar with, like all of that element of the game was missing. He kept getting tagged by these leg kicks, which is unusual. And at one point, like you said, it didn't even look like he was checking them. It just looked like he didn't know what to do. He was just getting kicked and he didn't know what to do. But moving on, and where this leads Conor, he's still the biggest attraction in the game, bar none. Do you know what I mean? Bar none. To the point where, Dana White had to come out and say, look, if anyone's illegally streaming this shit, I'm coming for you personally. I'm like, you're going to find me at your door. You know what I mean? And as much as it's a damaging loss, an embarrassing loss, whatever you want to call it, bruv, his stock still remains super high. Super high. Now, more than ever, people want to know what he's going to do next. And we saw the same shit when he lost to Diaz the first time. The uproar for the rematch, the demand for the rematch was insane, was out of this world, we saw when he lost to Habib, you know, the uproar and the demand for the rematch, again, astronomical. Everyone wants it. And even in this fight, it's the same shit. You know, even when he lost to Mayweather, you know, at the time, I know
no one were asking for no rematch.
No. I'm not talking about the rematch. But at the time, they were like, "What's he gonna do next?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What is he going to do next? Because there's been talk of Nate 3. There's been talk of them finding someone a little bit lower down so he can try and rebuild his confidence. And then we've also got the talk of, apparently has gone on the back burner after this loss, of going back over to boxing and fighting Pacquiao. Yeah. But apparently Conor's committed to doing at least 2 more fights this year. So what is next? What's the best route for Conor to go down?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, his stock is higher than ever, even though he lost. But yeah, just quickly, with regards to the Mayweather match, there was demand for a rematch. The demand wasn't a boxing match, though. I'm not sure if you remember.
Yeah, it was
they
MMA.
wanted Mayweather to come to MMA.
Yeah, that was never going to happen.
It was never going to happen, but still, that's what I mean. Even after a loss, people are still talking about him. So I
got a bit of reservations about that, though, too, because okay, you mentioned Diaz, but Diaz was in a position where it was available. Poirier wants a title shot. He's gonna be focused on a title shot regardless. So I don't think the third fight is an option for the near future.
Who's he gonna fight for the title?
Well, this is well. There's
we'll come to that after we talk about after the hooker and the Chandler and everything. But
let me just say this here to TJ's point about where Conor goes from here. It's like, look, the Diaz trilogy, the Habib rematch, or the Poirier trilogy will all sell. They will all sell. He's off the back of a loss to Habib and a loss to Poirier and a dubious, or not even, I wouldn't call it dubious, but a very close contested win against Diaz, which some people thought he potentially may have lost or possibly lost. So all those 3 fights, if Dana can make those 3 fights happen, trust me, there's no turning back. And I'm sure Dana will be like, yeah, that's the only reasonable sort of avenue to go down, unless like you said, they get Conor to fight someone lower than him, maybe a Justin Gaethje, maybe a Michael Chandler. But come on, those fights up against those 3 that I mentioned, it's not.
But we're talking about realistic. First of all, Khabib fight isn't realistic. He said it to Dana himself. He's like, these guys are 2 levels below me. So, and Khabib, I think Khabib will come back, just not in the near future, because he's 32, 33. He can still come back in 2 years and, do something and have his 30-0. So I think that fight's available, but not right now. Poirier, as I said, he wants a title. So he's going to go into a title fight. His next fight's a title fight. That's his dream. Like, he's not going to, right now, because there's no Khabib, he's not going to want to compromise on that dream by facing Conor again and then maybe losing that shot. He wants a title shot. So for me, the Diaz is an option. I personally don't want to see it because we're saying Conor's been out for a while. He's got ring rust. Diaz has been on and off for how long? I know you think that it's Diaz, but we can't be double. We can't. I want to see a good Diaz, so I don't really think that's going to happen anytime soon again.
You chatting shit about my boy, bro?
Yes, I am. You know, I'm not a Nate fan. I'm not a Nate fan.
Listen, one thing you can be rest assured about Nate is I've said this before. There's 2 kinds of, in the UFC, you get 2 kinds. You get the athletes, who need to train and do 6-month training camp, and then and then you get the fighters, bro, who you call them up last minute, they'll be there, they'll show up, and
Fine. Nate is an option. Nate is an option. We'd love to see the third fight, and that'd be a good fight for him. But for
Nate, Nate, to be fair to him, yeah, after the Conor rematch, he took a hiatus. He came back. He fucked up Anthony Pettis. He got that fight with Jorge for the BMF belt, and despite getting absolutely dominated by Jorge, bruh, it wasn't one of those fights where you felt sorry for Nate. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because he was still in there fighting to the death. He was slapping him even when he was on his back. Down. Like Nate is.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. It'll be huge. Nate versus Conor will be fun.
No Nate Diaz fight is a boring fight, especially not a trilogy grudge match with Conor. The Khabib fight, I completely agree with you. I don't think Khabib is interested in any of these guys. The only part where I would disagree, and I said this again in the preview show, is, and me and TJ spoke about it, I don't think Khabib is coming back. Not because of the fighters, not because like there's no challenges. I just think he's been disrespected so badly by the UFC. And to a man like that, money, fame, none of that shit matters. Do you know what I mean? Unless he's coming back to fight.
I think he'll come back. He wouldn't have talked to Dana, and he would have made it clear if he was definitely not coming back. I think
GSP, baby, GSP. I think that's the only way. That is the only. TJ, what do you think, bro? For real, you've been hella quiet, man. I know I've been telling
you. Listen, you lot have been chatting so much, bro. I'm just listening and taking it in. But personally, if it's not GSP, it has to be like basically within the next 2 years, someone has to dominate the lightweight division. If no one dominates it, if the belt keeps chopping and changing, he's not coming back. So it has to be either GSP or if one of these guys goes on a mad run in the lightweight division and dominates it, Khabib will come back, because Khabib's all like, I don't want someone just win the title, I'm going to come back. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone to beat up all these other bums like I have and then I'm going to be like, all right, cool. Now it's the time for me to come back.
I agree.
And assert myself as, if it's not already, the best lightweight of all time and the GOAT. That's what I think that Khabib's personally looking for. I think for Conor, I think it has to be Nate. Or if it's not Nate, then I think Conor's done. I think he's done. I think he's done, and that's not because I think he's shit. But I don't think his heart's in it anymore. I think that he can explore so many different avenues, and rightly so, because he's earned the right. He's earned the right to explore many different avenues. But I think if Pacquiao came to him and said, look, let's do this, I think he'd put all the UFC stuff aside and go and do more boxing. But I think he's got so many different avenues that he can go into right now. I just don't think his heart's in it to be like it was before, where he was hungry. The hunger's not there. And I know too, you said that he's come back for the legacy, but I just don't think it's there anymore. I think he's just he's happy with life. He's happy with life. And
I don't think he's done though.
I think he'll carry on fighting. I think he will carry on fighting. But personally, mentally, I just think he's checked out, bro. I just think he's got so many other ventures going on right now that he's just like, you know what, MMA, I want to do my legacy thing, but
you worded it perfectly. It perfectly. He's gonna fight some more, but it's not the Conor that we saw.
That's the thing. That's leading me to my point, though. So me personally, I would love to see a wrestling style. I know we saw WrestleMania, the streak versus the career. I want to see Conor versus Tony, the career versus the career. Whoever loses, get out the
UFC. You know, I'd watch that fight.
Exactly. Whoever loses, get out the UFC.
Tony's not gonna.
You know what, man? I think you called it. I think you fucking called it. Do you
know I think it'd be beautiful.
Bruv, I completely forgot about El Kukui, bruv.
That's a great fight.
About El Kukui. You're right, bruv. That's gonna. Do you know what? If Conor fights again this year,
that would be huge.
That will be.
I think
you called truth. I think you actually spoke the truth for once.
Nah, I agree 100%. I think that would be the best fight for him.
Yeah.
Will it happen? I personally think if Dana can talk to him and give him the money, I think the trilogy with Nate is going to be the most likely fight.
I think trilogy Nate most likely. But if
Tony versus Conor, I'm here for it.
That's it. Career versus career. They're both coming out losses. They both need to build. Whoever wins is going to be on a bounce, and whoever wins will probably go straight into a title fight. That's how big it'll be.
I'm telling you now, if that fight happens, us man have never watched a fight together. Fuck all.
Yeah, we go live.
Yeah, we're gonna go live.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
We got to do it.
I'm here for it. Just quickly, we need to touch on we need to touch on something after this, but obviously, we got it wrong again with Hooker versus Chandler. Chandler coming over from Bellator. Debuting.
Oh, what? You guys picked Hooker for this fight? Oh yeah.
Chandler debuting in the UFC, getting a first round TKO.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you say, mate?
I mean, I thought Hooker would have performed much better than he did, given the fact that he's come off some good performances, even though he came off a loss to Dustin. Yeah. I thought he was good enough to systematically dismantle someone like Chandler, because when it comes to these fights, I always pick the fighter that has more weapons, and I thought Hooker has more weapons than Chandler does. To me, we spoke about this. Chandler is like that sort of wrestler with some decent boxing kind of Matt Hughes kind of mold. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So got it wrong. Beautiful finish. Sparked him out. Completely sparked him out. Cold. Referee should have stopped it sooner.
It was horrible. Yeah, he was getting pummeled on the floor.
And kicked as well.
Like the thing is that's the difference between the Conor finish and that finish. That finish was horrible. Like man was punching him, man weren't responding, bruv. Stop the fight, innit? Yeah.
Trust me. And there was a couple bad finishes, not bad finishes, but a couple bad stoppages by the referee during the card, because during the first fight of the card where Amanda Hebas fought Marina Rodriguez, Herb Dean stopped in to stop the fight, and then he let them go, and then he let them fight again, and then Hebas got pummeled some more, and then he stopped the fight. It was like, no, if you're going to step in, you need to call.
Always too early instead of too late. Always too early instead of too late.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly the opposite of what happened with the Hooker and the Chandler fight. But where this leads Chandler, he was calling out Habib, saying shit like, "I'll knock him out."
Everyone.
He needs to chill out a bit. He needs to chill out.
Well, this is what we're going to lead into in terms of Poirier, because as Truth said, Poirier is having a title fight. His next fight will be for a title. Now, Dana has come out and said that it's most likely to be Chandler and the title's for. Poirier said, fuck that. No, I'm not fighting him. Yeah. He's like, he hasn't earned his credentials. He hasn't earned his stripes. Why should he walk in from Bellator, the B League of MMA, and come in and get a title shot? Nah, he's not for it. So Poirier is on this one where Poirier also called out Khabib, but obviously Khabib's not going to do nothing. But Poirier would rather face the man who deserves it, which is Oliveira. Yeah. He's the man that deserves it. That should be the title fight. And as you remember, you were saying about the tournament, the lightweight tournament. Yeah. If anything, Chandler should fight Gaethje, and then whoever wins out of Chandler and Gaethje then gets a shot at whoever wins out of Poirier and Oliveira. I think that's the route it's going down. But Dana said, Chandler's the most likely, and it's because of Chandler's following from Bellator. He's massive over there. So Dana's thinking numbers, right? Okay. Instead of thinking about the fact that these guys have been out here in the UFC trying to earn their stripes and deserve it. And that Oliveira fight and Poirier fight would be mad. Wow, that's a mad fight. That's a bad look, man. That's a bad look. Bro, Gaethje and Chandler will be nuts because the winner of that fight, fighting Poirier and Oliveira, the winner of that fight, bro, the pay-per-view numbers for those two fights, whoever wins out of those two will be nuts. Yeah. Be nuts. And then circle back, whoever wins out of Conor and Tony in the background gets the winner of either whoever wins out of Oliveira and Poirier, whoever's holding the title at the time. And that's the end of the year, bruv. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that's how it should be. But Dana's talking about this Chandler fight, bruv. Truth, what do you think?
Nah, I'm with Poirier. Poirier said it perfectly. You don't come over here to the A League beat somebody that's coming off a loss. I know Hooker's got credentials, but at the end of the day, I don't think Hooker's top five. I want to put Hooker in the top five.
He is top five, but he's not established.
Wait, so what? Gaethje, Poirier, Conor, Tony. Well, Chandler just beat him, so I'll put him in the top 10. I don't think I'll put him top 5. I don't think I'll put Hooker top 5.
I think before the pay-per-view, Hooker was like ranked 4 or 5.
Really? That high?
I'm not sure.
Nah.
He was ranked 6.
Yeah. I thought it'd be 6. Yeah,
just
not top 5.
But I agree.
Just top 5.
DJ, with everything you said, I completely agree. I would love to see Chandler versus Gaethje. That matchup.
I think that's a given. I think that's a given.
Fight, bro.
It's a given. It's an absolute given. It's like they're two pit bulls. It's like watching two pit bulls fight. You need to have the fight. As far as who deserved it, Oliveira for sure needs to fight Dustin, and that will be an immense fight. I'm not even sure if they fought before at featherweight. I can't remember, but they may have even fought. That might even be a rematch. But Oliveira definitely deserves the shot. However, Uncle Dana does make a point, bruv, in terms of views, in terms of numbers, in terms of promotion. Like it's
I know.
It's easier to go the Chandler way.
However, I think it's a bad look though.
Let me say this. Yeah. Justin Gaethje, when he came into the UFC, he was a champion of World Series of Fighting, undefeated 20-0. And look at the road he had to take to get a title shot.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, bruv. It's a tough one, isn't it? But I get Bellator is a little bit more renowned and well known than World Series of Fighting.
Yeah.
But I still think Chandler needs to have maybe a few more fights. But don't get me wrong, Dustin versus Chandler will also be a banger. It just feels unfair.
It is unfair, and I look, at the end of the day, I'm all for the big fights, like the massive fights. Like we're talking about having a big fight in boxing with AJ and Fury and telling Wilder and Usyk to take a back seat. I get all that, but Chandler is not that massive name where you need to take step aside money to fight for the title. He's not that. He's not that. I'm sorry, he's not. Yeah. So I don't see any justification for it. And my whole thing is that give it to them. Listen, we're still in Corona times. So you still, all right, fair enough, you're thinking about pay-per-view buys, but the fans you're getting in, you're still getting them in dribs and drabs. So let Oliveira and Poirier fight for the title. Get Chandler and Gaethje, that's going to get you massive pay-per-view buys. Put them both on the same card as co-main events. And bro, by the time the summer rolls around, and obviously people are taking the vaccine or whatever, you can get more people in, do the title fight between Poirier and Chandler. Then at the end of the year, when everyone's happy as Larry, whoever wins out of Conor and Tony, get that for the end of the year, bruv. It's sorted. Yeah. It's sorted. And then after that, get Nate in April.
The thing is, I think Conor could actually face, because he said he wants 2 fights. I think Conor could actually face Nate, even if he was to lose. He wouldn't lose any momentum in terms of the lightweight division. I think he could still go face Tony at the end of the year, and then early next year fight for the title if he was to beat Tony. So I'm all for that, man. That sounds like a plan to me. Dana, if you're listening.
Yeah, Dana, if you're listening, to get onto your man then, bruv. Get this facts through. Like you did with Fat Frank, get this facts through, bruv. Get this onto Dana. Dana, we sorted out the light heavyweight division for you. That's it, sorted. Like, don't be trying to give a man that's come over and only had 1 fight a title shot so soon, because you're gonna it leaves a sour taste in people's mouths. He's not that big box office guy that you need to do that stuff with. No chance. But yes, people, that is it. Another session. You got double whammy from us this evening. Wrap up of UFC. I want to say thank you again to my guys, Tooth and the Truth. Thank you very much, gents, for your time.
Glad to be here, man. Glad to be here. We're getting big.
Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure.
And as usual, as we say, like, comment, share, and describe. Do you agree with what we said? It makes sense, right? Makes sense. Oliveira, Poirier, Gaethje, Chandler, get them together. Then after that, Conor to fight the winner. It makes sense. Put it in the comments and let us know your thoughts and what you think. We will be back soon, people. We'll be back probably on, well, we're recording again on Thursday for the Prem preview show. It's a big one. It's a massive one. It is Arsenal against Manchester United. That will be going out on Friday. Be there. It's going to be tasty. It's going to be very, very tasty. We might have a special guest for you as well. But again, thank you to my guys, Two from the Truth, for one more time. Thank you very much, guys. Easy. And as we say, people, as usual, stay safe, keep your family safe, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.